They say legends are born on stages. But Elvis Presley's story began in a quiet town with a dream too big for the world to hold. This is where the music found him, and where everything began. It was Tupelo, Mississippi, a small town in the American South. On January 8, 1935, a legend was born, but no one knew it then. Elvis Aaron Presley arrived in a tiny two-room house. His twin brother Jesse Garon was sadly stillborn. This early loss cast a long shadow. It shaped the young boy who would one day change the world with his voice and his moves. The house itself was simple, built by his father Vernon, with help from family. Life in Tupelo during the Great Depression was incredibly hard. Poverty was a constant presence for the Presley family. Vernon Presley worked various jobs, but steady income was rare. Gladys, Elvis's mother, was a strong and loving woman. She dedicated her life to her surviving son. They faced uncertainty daily, wondering where the next meal might come from. Yet, within those humble walls, a powerful bond grew. Elvis was the center of his mother's world. Her love was a shield against the harsh realities outside their door. The community around them was close-knit, but also marked by the era's hardships. From these modest beginnings, a global icon would emerge. The small boy from Tupelo, Mississippi carried a spark waiting for the right moment to ignite. The Presley family unit was incredibly tight. It consisted of Elvis, his mother Gladys, and his father Vernon. They were more than just family. They were a team against the world. Gladys adored Elvis with an intensity that was legendary. She saw him as a precious gift, especially after the loss of Jesse. Her focus was almost entirely on his well-being and happiness. Elvis, in turn, was deeply devoted to his mother. Their connection was profound and would remain a central part of his life, even after fame found him. Vernon Presley, though often struggling to provide, loved his son dearly. He was a quieter presence than Gladys, perhaps, but his support was there. The family faced numerous challenges together. They moved frequently, seeking better opportunities, often living in modest circumstances. Despite these difficulties, the love between the three of them was a source of strength. It created a small, safe world for young Elvis. This unwavering support system allowed him to dream, even when the world outside seemed bleak and unforgiving. Gladys, in particular, instilled in Elvis a sense of self-worth. She believed in him, even before there was any clear sign of his future path. The Presley trio, in their small, often troubled world, laid the groundwork for a legend. Music entered Elvis's life at a very early age, primarily through the church. The family attended the First Assembly of God Church in Tupelo. Here, young Elvis was surrounded by the powerful sounds of gospel music. The hymns were full of emotion, passion, and spirit. He would sit with his parents, listening intently to the choir and the congregation. The music was loud, heartfelt, and deeply moving. It was an experience that captivated him completely. He felt the rhythm and the soul in those songs. It was more than just sound, it was a feeling that stirred something deep within him. The style of worship at their church was expressive. People clapped their hands, swayed to the music, and sang with all their hearts. This was not a quiet, reserved form of praise, it was alive and vibrant. Elvis absorbed it all. He saw how music could move people, how it could lift their spirits. The raw emotion and sincerity he witnessed in church became a part of his artistic DNA. This foundation in gospel music was crucial. Elvis's musical education was not confined to the walls of his own church. He was a curious boy, drawn to sounds that were different and exciting. Growing up in the segregated South, there were clear lines dividing communities. However, music often found ways to cross those boundaries. Young Elvis, sometimes with friends, would reportedly sneak over to African American churches in Tupelo. He would stand outside or peek through a window, listening to a different kind of gospel. It was a sound that was even more rhythmic, more blues-infused, and incredibly powerful. This music was vibrant and full of life. The singing was passionate, the rhythms infectious. It was a style that had a deep, earthy quality. It spoke of struggle and joy, of pain and resilience. For a young, impressionable boy like Elvis, These sounds were captivating. They were different from what he heard in his own church, yet they shared a similar emotional intensity. He was like a sponge soaking up these diverse musical influences. This exposure to black gospel music was a pivotal, if informal, part of his learning. The rhythm and blues traditions were also beginning to seep into the airwaves and communities. These experiences, listening to music from outside his immediate culture, were formative. A significant moment in Elvis's early journey with music came when he received his first guitar. Accounts vary slightly, but the story often told is that he wanted a bicycle, or perhaps even a rifle. His mother, Gladys, ever protective and perhaps sensing his deeper calling, guided him towards a guitar instead. It was an inexpensive instrument, purchased from the Tupelo hardware company. He was around 11 years old at the time. This simple gift would prove to be incredibly important. It put a tool in his hands, a way to express the music that was stirring within him. He was initially shy about performing, even for his family. His uncle, Elvis Presley, and other family members reportedly showed him a few basic chords. He practiced diligently, though perhaps not always with perfect technique. He would sit on the porch strumming the strings, trying to coax out the melodies he heard in his head and on the radio. The guitar became a companion. It was something that was his own. In a life marked by economic uncertainty, this instrument represented a small piece of personal expression and potential. One of his earliest public performances was at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show in Tupelo. This was in October 1945. He was just 10 years old. Dressed in his best clothes, he stood on a chair to reach the microphone. He sang Red Foley's country song, Old Shep. Despite not winning, the experience likely planted a seed. In late 1948, when Elvis was 13, the Presley family made a significant decision. They packed their belongings and moved from Tupelo, Mississippi to Memphis, Tennessee. Vernon was seeking better job opportunities. Life in Tupelo had been a constant struggle, and Memphis, a larger city, seemed to offer more hope. For young Elvis, this move would prove to be transformative. Memphis was a bustling river city with a rich musical heritage. It was a place where different cultures and sounds converged. This new environment would expose him to even more diverse influences. The transition was not easy. The Presleys initially lived in public housing projects such as Lauderdale Courts. They continued to face financial difficulties. Elvis was now a teenager, trying to find his place in a new city and a new school. He was still shy and often felt like an outsider. His clothes were different. His hair was longer than was common for the time, and his musical tastes were already leaning towards styles that weren't mainstream for many of his peers. He carried his guitar to school, a symbol of his quiet passion. Memphis was a crucible of American music. The sounds of the city began to seep into his consciousness, adding new layers to the musical foundation he had built in Tupelo. The move to Memphis was a pivotal moment. In Memphis, Elvis discovered Beale Street. This legendary street was the heart of the African-American music scene in the city. It was alive with the sounds of blues, jazz, and rhythm and blues. Though a white teenager in a segregated era, Elvis was irresistibly drawn to the energy and authenticity of the music emanating from Beale Street's clubs and shops. He would gaze at the flashy clothes in the windows of Lansky Brothers, a clothier that would later dress him. He would listen to the musicians playing on street corners or in the doorways of bustling establishments. The music of Beale Street was raw, emotional, and deeply expressive. Artists like B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, and many others were shaping the blues sound there. Elvis absorbed these influences. He heard the soulful guitar licks, the powerful vocals, and the heartfelt lyrics. This was music born from hardship and resilience, themes he understood from his own life. He wasn't just a passive listener, he was internalizing these sounds, feeling their rhythm and their pain. The blues spoke to him in a profound way, adding a new dimension to his evolving musical understanding. His exposure to the rhythm and blues artists on Beale Street and on black radio stations like WDIA was critical. He began to blend these sounds with the country music he loved and the gospel music from his childhood. This fusion was happening organically within him. Beale Street was a crucial classroom for his musical education. The impact of Beale Street on Elvis cannot be overstated. In the summer of 1953, Elvis Presley, then 18 years old, walked into a small recording studio in Memphis. It was called the Memphis Recording Service, home of Sun Records, run by a man named Sam Phillips. Elvis wasn't there to become a star, not initially. His stated purpose was to record a couple of songs as a belated birthday gift for his beloved mother Gladys. He paid the fee, around $4, to make a personal acetate disc. He chose to sing two Ink Spots ballads, My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin. Marion Keisker, Sam Phillips's assistant, was the one who handled Elvis's first recording. Phillips himself was not present for most of it. Elvis was nervous. He was just a young truck driver with a guitar and a unique voice. Keisker reportedly asked him who he sounded like. Elvis replied, "I don't sound like nobody." This simple, honest answer was perhaps more telling than he realized. He sang with a heartfelt sincerity, his voice already possessing a distinctive quality, a slight quaver, a natural vibrato. Keisker made a note, "Good ballad singer, hold." This first recording was not a polished masterpiece. It was raw and unrefined. But there was something there, something in his voice that caught Keisker's attention. Months passed after Elvis's initial recording at Sun. He returned in early 1954 to record another demo, but still, nothing clicked in a major way. Sam Phillips was intrigued but hadn't found the right song or setting for Elvis's unusual style. Then, in the summer of 1954, Phillips was looking for a singer for a ballad called Without You. He remembered the young man with the interesting voice and called Elvis back to the studio. Elvis tried the ballad, but it wasn't quite right. The session seemed to be going nowhere, a potential disappointment. During a break in what was becoming a frustrating session, Elvis guitarist Scotty Moore and bassist Bill Black started casually playing around. Elvis launched into an up-tempo version of Arthur Big Boy Crudup's blues song, That's All Right. He was just having fun, letting loose. Scotty and Bill joined in. It was spontaneous, energetic, and completely different from what they had been trying to record. Sam Phillips in the control room heard it. He immediately recognized that something special was happening. "What was that?" he exclaimed, asking them to start again and recording it. That moment was pure magic. Elvis sang with a freedom and energy that hadn't been captured before. His voice soared, blending country inflections with bluesy feeling. The rhythm was infectious. Thank you for watching Humble Beginnings, Elvis Presley, brought to you by Softbound. If his early story inspired you or brought back memories of your own, we'd love to hear them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow along as we journey through the life of a legend, one chapter at a time.